Well, let's do Workers' Day, May Day, Labor Day, whatever you want to call it. I think we can all agree that today is a day to celebrate, reflect on, and basically plan for the future of works. And we want to have a different conversation today. And I really hope that this will add value to all of the conversations that will happen across the country, all the march pasts, the usual parades that we see on Labor Day. And we're joined on the program by Samantha Ifezulike, who's the head of operations at Jobberman, as well as the former president, Nigeria British Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Dapo Adelegon, joining us virtually. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the program.
Morning. Good morning.
Well, I know you are particularly excited because it's Workers' Day. You operate smack in the middle of, workers, labor, employment, productivity, and the rest. But I think it's always important to, feel the pulse of workers, feel the pulse of Nigeria's labor market today. Yeah. How well are we doing? When you check your pulse, you kind of wonder, what's my BPM and the rest? How are we doing? In terms of unemployment now, underemployment, wages, and the rest?
I will start with unemployment. I know the statistics are here that it's maybe around like 5%, but I would say that there's a deeper line into it. It's what the numbers are saying, but then what's the reality of our market? Unemployment rate is at a high, that we know, the numbers are there, but there's another part to it, which is underemployment. A lot of people are in the mode of hustling. So they will take up any job that they get just to make an end to a miss. Whether I'm, not qualified for the job, and non-qualified meaning that it doesn't mean that you don't have the right skills. It also means that perhaps I have the right skills, but I'm taking up the jobs that are below my own earning just because I need to provide for my family. The economy is not smiling, but we need to feed. And then you come down to the angle of what exactly is the labor market saying? What is making the end to a means? We're seeing a lot of inflow of, I would say, the gig economy rising, but the labor market as it sits right now, the same way our economy is not doing so great, it would also get into the labor market because right now, people are just getting whatever they need to get a means to an end. Unemployment is at a high. We know. It's not looking good, but it could get better. Maybe if our economy gets better, it would also improve that because it's linked to the buying power of people. It's linked to people getting dignified and fulfilling jobs. At the current stats, we're surviving. That's what the labor market is saying. So we're just trying to survive.
We're surviving. And you've said that it's basically a reflection of the economy. So yes. If the economy does well, the workers will do well.
Yes.
And I want to ask Mr. Delegon, because, the state of commerce is really what impacts on workers. If commerce is doing great, if industries are doing great, then I imagine that our workers will earn better. But there's also something at the heart of this, which I want to speak to, and it's about work ethic, right? Where is the challenge, really? Is it that Nigerians are not enterprising enough? Is it that Nigerians are not hardworking enough? And again, I don't want to assume, because you can say Nigerians are hardworking, but you operate right in that sector. So where exactly is the disconnect? Yes, please go ahead, Mr. Delegon.
Okay, thank you very much for having me. I'd like to just step back a little and say that the condition of workers is a reflection of the structure of society in terms of social welfare. Every economy has challenges. The American, the British, the French, it's ups and downs. And nobody appreciated the war in Iran, between Iran and America and Israel, for example. So shocks come from time to time. That is life. However, Nigeria needs to have a discussion, a critical discussion between the private sector and the public sector about the kind of society in which we want to have. And it must then be one that provides, the basics, structures in affordable transportation, affordable healthcare, affordable housing, and affordable education for the generality of the Nigerian people. So I think irrespective of any shock, either wars or economic dislocation, COVID, society already has a structure in place that provides the basic for its people. I think the absence of a structured social welfare system in Nigeria will continue to affect our situation when we have unexpected shocks in global economy that also affect the country. I think we are mature enough to begin to have that discussion between, and bringing up this discussion, the labor unions themselves can convocate this series of discussions with, and bring in the private sector and the public sector to begin to look at a Marshall Plan for Nigerian workers. It is not enough to continue to increase salaries because inflation will erode it, but having a structured system where the Nigerian worker can have living wage, public housing, comfortable, affordable transportation, to be able to survive and live a meaningful life, irrespective of economic nuances that comes up from time to time.
Let's talk about how this is created, because it's institutions that produce the people that eventually work at the different, whether in the private sector, in the public sector, whether people want to go into business or people who want to get a job in the corporate space, the 9-to-5s. When you look at the curriculum of Nigeria, given what we're dealing with, are you thinking what some persons are alluding to the fact that we may have to review our curriculum such that certain courses should no longer be studied in Nigerian universities, so that we don't just give people false hope and put them into a quagmire? They come out, they can't really practice anything much. Do you subscribe to that as well?
Well, I think that is an important subset. Of the larger question. Yes, because of the emergence of technology, we need to retool, reskill our educational system, provide proper training for teachers and motivate them. The teachers are also part of the working class. So if we have a global picture of social welfare system anchored on compassion for every policy that is made, policy exertions and formulation, if compassion is at the basis of it, it means that the basics of life, house, education, health, transportation, a global program that is set for the Nigerian working class. Now, the subject of what kind of courses that we need to do is important. It's the minor subset of the general issue. Every single area of courses, humanities, science, STEM, technology, are important to the national existence. So, in reality, yes, we need to do more investment in technology schools, technical education colleges, to bring skills into the fore in a century where there are no jobs, but only customers. The advent of technology has made it imperative that we need to skill up, our institutions and put more funding in technical vocational education. However, the discussion should be going forward, a discussion about a social welfare system for this country. Nigeria is mature enough to have a universal health system, but people should be able to have mass and affordable housing for people and cheap and affordable transportation. That is the discussion that we must begin to have to be able to solve the problem of consistent workers' discontent and all kinds of issues about welfare of the Nigerian worker.
Let me bring it to Samantha. Let me talk to you on that. I went to curriculum. Now, I want to talk about the labor market itself, which you mentioned. There could be the fact that there are places that are in need of workers,
Yes.
that we don't have critical mass. And then there are sectors that there's really no work, but everybody is flocking in that direction. Is that something you can help us walk and say, okay, this from your experience, from what you know, this industry is super saturated, there's limited space, but this place is looking for people. So why are people saying there are no jobs?
Okay, so I think that I wouldn't say it's one sector, right? I would say that our education system needs to be proactive, in the sense that the crop of people that have come out from educational systems are not able to fit directly into the workforce. So it might not be one sector,
and
it might be
that?
a generational.
Why can't they fix?
There's a skill gap issue. In schools, the courses that are still in schools are the courses that were, I wouldn't say the oil boom era, but I would still say the oil boom era. Meaning that jobs have changed, right? Gone are the days whereby you did not have something called digital marketing or social media, but people really need those skills right now because we're in a global society. Meaning that if you're unable to translate your old marketing techniques into the new generation, there's a problem. And companies need ready-to-go talent. Meaning that the schools need to also look at their curriculum and say, what is the market, what is the labor market requesting for? How can I tweak my curriculum? You see a lot of people leave schools and take short courses, not because they probably did not get a good degree, because they cannot translate the degree that they got in school into the workforce.
You want to mention those courses? Shake the table.
They're soft skills. There's something called personal effectiveness. As little as it seems, right? You get an entry-level person, comes into the office. The person is as clueless. Your boss assigns maybe like 5 tasks to you. You're not sure which one is the first thing you should go for, which one is the second thing you could go for. But there are courses that tell you what is the urgent, what is important. How do you communicate in the workplace? How do you actually have social communication with people? Because that's how you used to thrive in the workplace. But our education system is quite theory focused. It's not solving what the real time problem is. And then again, there's a need for, I would say, curriculum revision across board. So technology is changing very fast. You can't use a curriculum of 1960 or 1970 or even the early 2000 for 2025 or 2026 because there's always frequent updates. And you're seeing a lot of companies spend monies to actually train those people that have maybe passed through their assessment for maybe like 2 to 3 months before they get on the job. Companies are the ones who are doing the education for people. So you see a lot of banks, oil and gas industries hiring for graduate training, and that training period will probably be like 2 to 3 months because they need to hire you fresh off school and then begin to educate you to fit what their clients require. So until we get the schools to bridge that gap and say that if I'm going to get someone from maybe a public school or a private school, they have that ready skills already available. We also as a brand, we do trainings with the private sector, public sectors, just to try and bridge that gap because that's our commitment to the society. But I wish that we would have a system whereby our education, the crops that we get from schools, would be ready fit to the labor market.
I was hoping that you would mention those courses. Are they, is it sociology, philosophy, English education, religious studies?
No.
You know, such that, you know, the education system, the managers would then know whether to make those courses sub-courses, such that, you know, our young persons can take up courses that the town needs. And perhaps they can take those other courses as, you know, supporting courses.
So I would say that there's digital marketing skills, right? There's data analysis, right? Most times you see people that do industrial mathematics come into data, right? I would say at some point in time in my previous life, I like to call my ex-workplace previous life, I had cases whereby people will come out of school, and these are like top schools in Nigeria, either from engineering background into accounting. But they were good at it. So sometimes you also need to either invest in career counseling for these people. Again, our parents also have a part to play. Everybody had, back in the days, in the oil boom era, we either wanted to become doctors, lawyers, engineers, and nurses and whatnot. But right now, if you tell someone that I am a digital marketing making $1 million or making so much money, your parents probably cannot relate to you because they've kind of told you to go this path. But those skills are becoming, I wouldn't say obsolete, but they're not in high demand. You see people doing content creation. Now let's not get into the gig economy. Content creation actually earning a very good means to an end. But people, they also need to employ maybe content creators, so maybe help them with their businesses, YouTubers, editors, videographers, producers and directors, because we live in the era whereby media and social media is what is, I wouldn't say is in vogue, it's what's making our society better.
The new economy.
The new economy, the creative economy. It's something we don't even look at. So imagine if you had people, if you had a very good school that could do music production, you know, skills that they pay $1 million for. There's a reason why our giants are flying high. So imagine if you had a lot of giants that are not untapped yet, that the schools have been not able to bring out. What would our economy be like?
And that's quite instructive. Let's talk about another part, you know, which you touched on earlier, and see whether it has to do with retooling, such that those who fall within that category can receive counseling on, you know, better direction. And this has to do with underemployment. Every now and then you find, you know, some persons with a master's degree who is taking up a job as a driver, you know, someone who studied geography and regional planning, who is, you know, in another sector, perhaps in the education sector, alien to where they would have rather practiced. From the vantage point where you stand as someone who processes, you know, applications, what exactly is the problem? Are they not looking in the right places for the jobs, or they need some retooling to make them better positioned?
So, I would say that Nigerians like to collect certificates, but then are the certificates very essential to you? Our upbringing is one that would require you to get this and get this and get that. But then again, if you decide to pause and say, where am I going to? What certificates do I need to acquire to get to where I need to get to? Then it gets clearer, right? Because the master's degrees are there. That's why I also linked our current labor market to what the economy is doing. If we had a very, you know, elaborate economy, job creation was so, like we had a vast, serious percentage of job creation, it would be better. But in a situation whereby our labor market it's been, I would not say overtaken by the gig economy and informal work, but that's what it is. You're seeing more car hailing, like drivers, and it actually amounts to a high percentage of our employers in the labor market as we sit right now. You have the logistics and the rest of it. So I would say that if anybody needs to be proactive, think about where you're going to as a person and begin to get certifications towards that direction. But again, as a recruiter and as an HR person, stand out. Because for employers, they just need to get people that will stand out and provide value to their employees.
You know, I'm tempted to ask you, where is one sector that you know if someone applies now, you're most likely to get a job because you have the data, right?
Yeah.
So what is that sector? Before we go to Mr. Delegon quickly.
So within Q4 last year and early this year, I'm seeing the rise of entry-level roles across Tier 1 banks, oil and gas, and other services. FMCG too, maybe because the economy is picking up again, but you will see a lot of them there. So my advice to everyone is check, there are jobs out there, but are you fit for the jobs? FMCGs are hiring. You're seeing a lot of oil and gas hiring. You're seeing a lot of
Tier 1 banks.
Tier 1 banks hiring also. And beyond that too, there's a gig economy. You can also get your skills and export your talents to other people.
Gig economy.
Yeah.
I've heard that so much. But Mr. Delego, let's wind down with you. And it's back to the question I asked earlier about work ethic. There's a sense that you work to get paid, when for others you work to add value, you work to fulfill purpose. So you could see, and I'm not trying to diminish anyone, a Japanese who's making just a very simple meal, and the kind of dedication he has to, he puts in it. You almost think that this man is building the biggest thing ever. So, which is why I go back to work ethic. Do you think that can also help us shape the outcomes that we get from our workforce if we see work as a purpose, if we see work as something that is adding up to the big picture?
Well, you're right to a large extent. And I believe that Nigerians generally are hard workers. But what has happened to them is the dysfunction in the educational system, and that is to be fixed. However, there's another bigger picture. In the 21st century, a portfolio life is like going to give you a sense of worth and a living wage rather than just jobs. It means that beyond the jobs that we have, many of us cannot survive on our current salaries. It is just impossible. So we are encouraged to develop what they call a portfolio life. That means look at your natural and pedigree talents. Natural talents will be the gifts that God has given to you. Pedigree will be those things you learned, perhaps from your parents as a child. And then move away from your core competence, which is your salary job, and activate this natural and pedigree talents for additional income. I think it's important for Nigerians to recognize that the days of men going to work 9 to 5 and coming back home and living on just their core competence income is over. We need to do extra jobs beyond our 9 to 5 jobs. All over the world, our brothers and sisters in the diaspora that are remitting billions of dollars have multiple jobs. They have a core job, which is the core area of competence, and they have other things to do. So, realize that the system has changed. Society has changed. We're out of the boom era. We are in the global economy.
So, Mr. Adilego, are you saying the average Nigerian worker can work harder?
Oh, yes. We can work harder. We can create other sources of income beyond our core salary.
Okay.
No employer, and I've been an employer for 40 years.
Right.
No employer can pay a living wage salary in a difficult economy. So everybody has a responsibility to leverage on their natural and pedigree talent in creating additional income.
All right.
To ensure that they're able to survive the challenges of the 21st century.
Well, we still have a lot of work to do, but I'm very, very happy that you brought in this angle. Maybe when we switch to the hourly rate, then employers will begin to see how much they are paying their employees hourly, and employees will begin to say, well, I'm just going to work for 4 hours here today. Let me move to this place and work for another 5 hours and aggregate. Mr. Dapo Adelego, thank you for this angle you brought in. Former President, Nigeria British Chamber of Commerce, as well as Samantha Efezulike, Head of Operations at Jobberman. Thank you for the pointers, by the way. You can thank us later. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.